And now it's time for Polka Trivia with your host, Keith Strauss.
Well, we're back with more exciting Polka Trivia here on the IPA Virtual Weekend. And we've got two new contestants. From the New Phase Orchestra, Tony Blazonczyk, and from the D Street Band, Mr. Brian Kapka. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Keith.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. And we've got 4 categories with point totals, and we're going to let you know what the categories are right now, all right? So here we go. Category number 1, they're famous. These are questions about Hall of Famers. Category number 2, along the Polka Road, question about polka locations. We cut an album, polka questions about LP recordings or CD recordings. And our final category, pop culture, information in the polka industry. So we need to flip a coin, and
Can I flip him instead?
I'd pay to see that. We will flip a coin, and Tony will let you call it.
Heads.
Heads it is. So Tony, you have the opportunity to pass or play.
Well, let's start it off. Let's go with we cut an album for 100.
We cut an album for 100. These are questions about recordings. As soon as you think you know it, press down on the buzzer, all right? Here we go. Question number 1 in the category for 100 points. What is the name of the recording studio owned by Gary Ramey?
Peppermint Studios.
Peppermint Studios is correct. Yep, throughout the years, Peppermint Studios has been associated with many notable artists, talent such as Maureen McGovern, Phyllis Hyman, Boom Boom Mancini, Frank Yankovic, Joey Miskelin, and all of the top polka artists have recorded at Peppermint Studios. All right, so Tony's on the board first. We'll continue along with you. Would you like to go with that category, or would you
we'll
like?
stay in that category
Okay.
for 200.
All right, here we go. All right, our second question in Who Cut an Album? Tony wants it for 200. What year did the Dynatones record the Live Wire album? Tony?
1984.
That is incorrect. Brian?
1982.
That is also incorrect.
In the middle.
They were awarded the favorite album of 1982, but it was recorded the year before. In 1981, it was the first contemporary polka group to record a live album, Live Wire, recorded on Wham! WRS. Many of the songs like Zusha, Boys from Chicago, Red Shoes, have been played throughout the country by the Dynatones and mimicked by many other in our industry.
Do we have a lifeline that we can call to verify that?
This is not Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I'm sorry. No lifelines here. But anyway, do we stay in this category or do we move on?
Let's stay in the category.
For 300?
300.
All right, here we go. This should come as no surprise. Who wrote At the Square Polka originally? Time is up. Do you have an answer, gentlemen?
No.
No. At the Square Polka was originally written by John Libera Sr., recorded by Eddie Blazonczyk's Versatones, John Gora, Family Tradition, and most recently, it's featured on the CD by Freeze Dried, Bodacious Ditties. All right, gentlemen, the score is in the negative right now. Tony's minus 100. Brian, you're minus 200. But it's still anybody's game. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, do we want to stay with We Cut an Album?
Yeah, let's clean that column out.
All right, so here it is for 400 points. Who wrote the official polka for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
Lenny Gomulka.
Brian is correct. Lenny Gomulka. On October 1st, 1988, Say Hello to Someone from Massachusetts was approved as the official polka of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Say Hello to Someone in Massachusetts. Lenny Gomulka, the originator. Actually, Mitch Muskal gave Lenny the idea to write the song. Mitch Muskal, who could be heard on the Polka Jammer Network as well as WMUA. All right.
I got 200 now.
You're ahead.
Yeah.
Brian, you're leading now, so it's up to you. Which category would you like?
Oh, my favorite place, along the Polka Road.
All right, along the Polka Road.
I've spent many times along that road.
All right, so do you want to start at 1 or 2 or 3 or 4?
100.
100, all right. Get ready, stand by your buzzer. Here we go, question number 1. What was the name of the tavern and hall owned by Eddie Blazonczyk's mom?
Club Antoinette.
Club Antoinette is correct. Of course, Club Antoinette was located at 4559 South Richmond Street, and prior to that, Antoinette Blazonczyk was the owner and operator of the famous Pulaski Village. All right, do we want to continue in this category?
Yeah, let's go for 200, Keith.
200. From which state is the famous, it's the Daily Double. All right, so what do you want to wager on this? How many points would you like this to?
Let's just do 100.
Just 100?
Yeah, let's do 100.
All right, so for 100, what state is the famous Haruku's Hellraisers from?
Oh,
Brian?
New York.
New York is correct. Brian is correct, so
Yeah.
adds another 100 points to his score. The Haruku's Hellraisers date back to 1976 and a Halloween dance being held at the Albany PCC, and the late Hall of Famer Jan Simon started calling a ragtag group consisting of Bill and Doris Dobrecki, the captain and Mrs. Captain, a bunch of Haruku, which is Ukrainian for vodka, Hellraisers. And the name morphed into Haruku's Hellraisers. And of course, the captain is still leading that group with his whistle blowing in New York. All right, we're sailing along the Polka Road here, and we're down to the final 2 questions in this category. Brian, you answered the last question correctly. Would you like to stay here or move to another category?
Sure, let's stay on the Polka Road.
All right.
300.
300, all right.
All right.
Get ready, here we go. In what city was Theater's Grove located?
Pennsylvania.
Brian.
Oh, what city? Shoot.
I hear a buzzer coming.
Mount Pleasant.
He got it right under the wire. Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. Yes, Joe Theodore started to book various bands to play at local dances. As the demand became greater for the music, he established a well-known Theater's Grove in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania. And in 1975, he started Polka Fireworks at the Seven Springs Resort. All right, Brian added another 300 points to his total. We've
Is that
got
a
one
minus next year number?
One last question here in this category. Do we want to stick with it?
So let's go ahead and wrap up this category.
All right, here we go. Along the Polka Road, our final question in this category. In 1981, the very first live polka recording, Live Wire, by Scrubby and the Dynatones, was recorded where or in what city? Tony.
It's in Buffalo, New York.
Tony, that's not correct. You're close, though. It was a suburb of Buffalo, Lackawanna, New York. It was the Weber Post in Lackawanna, New York. The album was recorded live in person and set the tone for many live albums to follow. The Dynatones continued for many years to promote Polish-American music. The LP was chosen the favorite album by the electors of the International Polka Association in 1982. Well, all right, we're sailing along here on this edition of Polka Trivia during the IPA Festival weekend. And Tony Blazonczyk is minus 500. Brian Kapka has a commanding lead at 700. But it's still anybody's game. We'll be back with more of Polka Trivia here on the IPA's virtual weekend right after this. Well, our 2 contestants who are here with us on this edition of Polka Trivia, no strangers to the industry, is Tony Blazonczyk, leader of the New Phase, and Brian Kapka. Tony, let's start with you. You know, your brother was here a little bit earlier in the weekend, and we talked about him being the son of Eddie Blazonczyk, and of course, you're in the same category. You're the second son. I know that you performed with your dad on occasion, and is there anything that you can give him credit for that made you a success in this industry?
Where do you begin? I mean, the man was the legacy. I mean, he was the godfather of music. You know, his love for the music, his compassion, his talent, the way he was with people. I mean, there was nothing bad to say about my dad. You know, there was a time I remember you playing at Fitzgerald's in Berwyn one time. You were performing there. And the light was such a way that it was hitting your face,
And with your bass on yourself and the way you were looking, I had to look twice because you look just like your dad standing on stage. I mean, you're a great credit to his legacy, and you're continuing with the new phase. Of course, I remember when you were a little kid, you had the Southside Sounds. You played with Jerry Tarka. You performed with Stephanie. You've been around for a long time. How many years have you been performing in the polka field?
Oh, it's got to be over 35 years.
And I know that for a time there, when Bel Air Studios was in business, you kind of took some of charge of some of the recordings there.
I was running the recording studio there and helping produce CDs, and still doing what we can do to get the music out to the people.
I know that you're heard every week with your mom on your broadcast, heard on the Polka Jammer Network, 247, as well as here locally in Chicago on WPNA. If there's one thing that comes to mind after your 35 years in the polka field, what would be something that you'll never forget and you'll always cherish?
Working, playing, and recording with my father. Those were the highlights of my life. You know, having him in the studio with me, cutting vocals with me, being able to sit behind him on the drums and back up the versatones, those were the highlights that I get to cherish.
Well, we continue to give you congratulatory wishes and hope for many more years in the industry and carry on your father's legacy as you're the only performing Blazonczyk now on a regular basis. So continued success to you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Brian Kapka, who performs with the D Street Band. Of course, Brian is no stranger to the Chicago polka scene. Of course, his father, Lenny, was one of the original members of the Chicago Push, also played with Stash Galunka, the
Chi-Town Express.
Chi-Town Express. Yeah. Also, how about Don Jadlowski's Vibra Sounds?
Jerry Zahara.
Yeah, he played with a lot. And you kind of like followed in his footsteps as well.
Yeah, I feel like I did somewhat. I back in the days, playing polkas was, he was playing polkas almost 4 or 5 days a week. Unfortunately, it's just, like Tony and I always talk, we just came up in the wrong generation. We would love to be playing as much as they did back then. It's just unfortunate. It's just it's not there as much.
But you were exposed to the music through your dad and his performances. When you went out, your mom brought you to these different venues, if you could attend. What was one thing that you remember as a kid looking up to your father performing?
Oh, gosh. There were few places I got to go, just because a lot of the stuff in Chicago was a lot of bars and lounges. Back then, you really couldn't get into a lot of them, but there were some, specifically on Sundays, you were able to go. Club 505, Lone Tree, which were primarily the places I would go. And I know when I'd go to Lone Tree, I always looked forward to sitting in with the Chicago Push. And and just playing with them and playing with my dad, that was just something I always looked forward to.
Well, I know that one of your children is involved in music, although he's not in the polka field per se. No. He's an accomplished musician, and I'm sure that he took after you in that light.
Yeah, I mean, both my kids were in music, but my son's taken it a lot further. Yeah, he wants to be a music instructor for schooling, and that's what he's doing now.
Well, Brian, we continue to give you best wishes as well. We thank you for being here, and tell your dad and mom hello, because everybody remembers Diane and Lenny Kapka from many years ago. We hope they're doing well. All right, our scores in this edition of Polka Trivia: Tony Blazonczyk -500, Brian Kapka 700 to the good. We've got 2 more categories, so let's continue, gentlemen. Brian, you're in the lead, so pick the category.
Oh, let's see. How about, did you know that, for 100?
All right, pop culture. Did you know that, for 100? Here is the question. Which polka entertainer has a national commercial pushing pepperoni? Brian. Time is up.
Darn it. I can see him.
Is the answer Alex Mixner?
Yeah.
Well, we'll accept that. Alex Meixner. That's correct. Push the buzzer, will you? All right. There you go. In 2016, Alex collaborated with the notable advertising agency BBDO to produce the infamous Hormel pepperoni commercial. And at the end of 2016, he recorded with comedy phenomenon Jack Black for the major motion picture The Polka King that premiered, I should say, at the Sundance Festival in
Hey,
2017.
Keith, you know why I missed that? I couldn't think. My drink is empty.
Yeah, we need that stage
gotta
crew
reach-
here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. We continue along with the category, or do you want to switch? Tony, you got that
Nope, let's stay in that category for 400.
All right,
Oh,
jumping
we're
all
trying
the
to
way
catch
to the
up, huh?
end of the category here for 400. In December of 1985, the Queen of Polka appeared with Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. What was her name?
Vlasta.
Vlasta, that is correct. She appeared on Johnny Carson's show for the very first time in 1985. She performed Roll Out the Barrel, did her interview. She talked about her life and telling everybody she was the Shirley Temple of Czechoslovakia. Vlasta also appeared on the David Letterman show back in 1983. And in 1979, she recorded her first record for Pope John Paul when he visited the Chicagoland area. All right, we've got two more questions. Would you like to stay there, Tony?
No, let's try to catch up here. They're famous for 400.
They're famous for 400. All right, here we go. And in 1969, the International Polka Association decided to start inducting individuals. Who were the first two inductees into the Polka Music Hall of Fame?
Frankie Yankovic and Little Wally.
That is correct. Frankie Yankovic and Little Wally, two of the charter members of the Polka Hall of Fame in 1969, which was held at Polonia Grove. Tony, you are up ahead now, so let's find out where you'd like to go next.
All right, they're famous for 300.
They're famous for 300. All right, here we go. Listen closely. What father and his two sons are Hall of Fame inductees into the IPA? Time's up.
Father and two sons.
You have an answer?
Give me a minute.
Can't give you a minute. Time is up. Brian, do you have an answer?
No.
All right. Brunon, Bruno, and Lucian Krieger. The Krieger Brothers Orchestra began in 1930 in Wilkes-Barre under the direction of Lucian. The orchestra quickly moved up the musical ladder. And Lou was nominated for a Grammy Award in 1988 for his Polka Mania album, along with his father and brother, Brunon, Bruno, and Lucian Krieger. All right, Brian, where do you want to go now?
Let's go back to Did You Know That for 200.
Did you know that for 200? All right, Brian, stand by your buzzer. Here's the question. What was the famous pizza restaurant located near Polkabration? Brian.
Ocean Pizza.
Ocean Pizza is correct. It opened in 1962, almost a half century ago, and is still run by the same family.
Yeah, you would know food.
Starting as a tiny pizza place, it's grown over the past 48 years to become one of the best restaurants in southeastern Connecticut. All right, Brian, where do we go now?
Yeah, let's wrap up that category. Did you know that for 300?
All right, here we go. For 300, what instrument was... Oh, it's the Daily Double. All right, so how much do you want to wager here, Brian?
This isn't one of those McDonald's sandwiches, Brian. So...
Stroke. 200.
For 200, okay. For 200, here we go, Brian. Here's your question. What instrument was buried at sea after a pool party at the Wildwood Polka Spree?
What was buried at sea after? I'll say a saxophone.
I'm sorry. Push your buzzer.
Oh. Do I have to? Oh.
That's incorrect. We got to get the buzzer in there. So.
Oh, okay.
Tony, do you have a guess?
I'll go with a trumpet.
Nope, it wasn't a trumpet. It was a tuba. The Energy Polka Band used the tuba, and when it was determined that duct tape could no longer hold it together, they decided to bury it at sea and have a funeral procession, and they hurled it over their shoulders into the sea in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Yeah, that's what we should do with one of your vehicles.
All right, gentlemen, there's two questions left. Tony has 400, Brian has 600, and nobody got that one, but Brian, you're in the lead, so let's ask you, which question would you like to go with?
Let's go with, they're famous for 100.
They're famous for 100. Here we go, one of our last questions in our polka trivia today. Which polka Hall of Famer was the leader of the New Brass Orchestra from Massachusetts? Brian.
Roger Lickfalla.
Roger Lickfalla is correct. In 1969, he teamed up with Billy Chupta, Karl Hojnocki, Mitch Biskup, Tommy Kostic, Steve Dudas. They formed the Golden Brass, which later evolved into the New Brass Orchestra. All right, Brian, the category is in your control. This is our final question here. Stand by your buzzers. Whoever buzzes in first is going to get the opportunity to answer the question. Which Polka Hall of Famer had a radio show in Massachusetts called the Polka Bandstand?
Billy Bellina.
Billy Bellina is correct. Starting in 1979 all the way to 2016, Billy Bellina was a fixture on WMUA radio at the non-for-profit radio station at the UMass of Amherst. And then in 2016, the station changed policies and removed him from the air. And now you can hear him every Saturday morning on the Polka Jammer Network, as well as on Wednesday nights for his Polka Vinyl Show. Well, as we tabulate the totals here on this edition of Polka Trivia, we have to say congratulations to Brian Kapka, who was victorious with 900 points.
Thank you.
And Tony, unfortunately, you only have 400 points.
You won that burrito, Brian.
But we thank you both for joining us. We hope you had fun on this edition of the IPA's virtual weekend of Polka Trivia. One thing I'd like to say right now at this particular time is I'd like to give my thanks to Lindsay Matea, the producer of these segments here on the IPA virtual weekend. Did an awful lot of hard work, as well as the IPA board here this weekend. And it's been my honor and my privilege to be here as your host for these weekends. It brought back so many great memories from the years ago when I was on television every week here in Chicago, as well as Buffalo and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Who would have thought that 30 years later I'd be standing here doing this again? So thanks to Lindsay, thanks to her committee, and thank you for being here. We hope you enjoyed it. So long, everybody. My name is Keith Strauss. I'll see you down the Polka Road.
The state of Illinois, for I love that polka music ever since I was a boy. I've gathered all their records, for I cherished every name. So I then found myself standing in the Polka Hall of Fame. My heart then beat somewhat faster as I walked in through the door, for I heard the sound of voices I had often heard before. A happy kind of sadness brought a teardrop to my eye. Now I'll tell you what I saw there, and I'm sure that you'll see why. It was Blazonczyk and his versatones with his fateful bass guitar. I could hear that magic voice then coming from somewhere afar. Little Wally's heartfelt vocals and Casey's magic box. Walter Solek's crazy costumes always drew the crowd in flocks. We salute the Hall of Famers from all across the land. May the Lord bless those still living and the ones who join us then, as we celebrate their music and remember all their names. Our stars will live forever in the Polka Hall.